again. So we're continuing with chapter 73, and we're in Zelly's perspective in Children of Blood and Bone. Wind fills the silence as we ride across the Lokoja Sea on Rowan's boat. Unlike the vast vessels of Abeji's arena, Rowan's ship is sleek and angular. Only a few meters longer than Nayla. Instead of sails, metal turbines harness the blowing wind. They propel us through the choppy waters as they hum and rotate. I brace myself against Tizane and Amari as another large wave crashes against the iron boat. Unlike the Wari Sea off the coast of Aloran, the Lokoja Sea is phosphorescent. Beneath the water, plankton grow bright blue, making the sea sparkle like the stars in the sky. It would be an incredible sight if we weren't packed into the boat so tightly. Between Kenyon's team and a dozen of Rowan's crew, we're forced to squeeze in side by side with men we can't trust. Ignore them. I coach myself, turning to the ocean to revel in the familiarity of sea salt spray on my skin. Closing my eyes, I can almost imagine myself back in Aloran, back with the fish, with Baba, before all of this began. Back when my biggest worry was a graduation match. I stare at my hands, thinking of everything that's passed since then. I thought this close to the solstice I would feel something again. But still, no magic runs through my veins. Oh yeah, please. I clench my fists and pray. Sky Mother, everyone, I'm trusting you. Don't let me be wrong. Are you all right? Amari whispers. Though her voice is gentle, her amber eyes are knowing. Just cold. Amari tilts her head, but she doesn't pry. Instead, she laces her fingers through mine and looks back out at the sea. Her touch is kind, forgiving, like she already knows the truth. We've got company, boss. I whip around to find the silhouettes of large, 3-masted warships on the horizon. There's far too many to count. The wooden beasts cut through the water, metal plates marking the cannons lining their decks. Though they fade into the sea's mist, the moonlight illuminates Orishan's seal. My chest tightens at the sight, and I close my eyes, willing the image away. The heat intensifies my pain as the knife rips through my back. No matter how much I scream, the darkness never comes. I taste my own blood. Zell? Amari's face swims through the blackness. I squeeze her hand so hard her knuckles crack. I open my mouth to apologize, but I can't form the words. A sob threatens to creep up my throat. Amari puts her other hand around me and turns to Rowan. Can we avoid them? Rowan pulls a collapsible telescope from his pocket and presses it against his eye. That one's easy, but not the fleet behind it. He hands me the telescope, but Amari comes to my rescue and snatches it away. Her body goes rigid as she takes in the sight. Skies, she curses. Father's battleships. Saren's cold eyes flash into my mind, and I whip around, gripping the wooden ledge of Rowan's boat to stare out at the sea. I wouldn't be doing my job as king if I didn't remind you of what you are. How many? I managed to croak, but that isn't what I want to ask. How many of his lieutenants are on the ship? How many wait to scar me again? At least a dozen, Amari answers. Let's take another path, Tizane offers. Don't be foolish. The mischievous glint in Rowan's gray eyes reignites. Let's take the closest ship. No, Amari objects. That'll give us away. They're in our way, and by the looks of it, they're headed to this island too. What better way to get there than on one of their warships? I stare at the colossal vessels in the crashing sea. Where's Enon? If Saren's aboard one of those ships, is Enon with him? The thought is too hard to speak out loud. I lift up another silent prayer. If any god above cares for me, I'll never have to face Enon again. Let's do it. Dozens of faces turn to me, but I keep my gaze on the sea. If all those ships are headed to the island, we have to be smarter, efficient. Exactly. Rowan tilts his head in my direction. Kato, head for the nearest ship. As the boat speeds up, my heart beats with enough force to break free of my ribcage. How will I face Saren again? What good will I be without my magic? I grab my staff with shaking hands and flick to expand it. What are you doing? I look up to find Rowan at my side. We need to take the warship. Love, that's not how this works. You hired us for a job. Sit back and let us do it. Amari and I glance at each other before turning to the monstrous battleships. You really believe you can accomplish this without our help? Amari asks. Taking it is easy. The only question is how fast we can do it. He gives a hand signal to two men. They withdraw a crossbow with a hook and a rope. Rowan raises a fist, presumably to release the arrows, but pauses and turns to me. What's your limit? What? What are we allowed to do? Personally, I prefer a clean throat slit, but with the sea, drowning could be efficient too. The ease with which he speaks of ending human life sends a chill through my skin. It's the calm of a man who fears nothing. The calm that sits in Saren's eyes. Though I can't sense the spirits of the dead right now, I don't want to imagine how many spirits would swarm around Rowan. No killing. The order surprises me, but as soon as it leaves my lips, it feels right. So much blood has already been spilled. Whether we win or lose tomorrow, these soldiers don't need to die. You're no fun, Rowan groans before turning to his men. You heard her. Take them out, but keep them breathing. A few mercenaries grumble and my heart shivers. How often is death their first answer? Before I get a chance to ask, Rowan flicks out two sharp fingers. The crossbow releases and hooks through the wooden hull of the ship. Rowan's biggest man ties the end of the rope around his massive frame to keep it secure. The mercenary Rowan calls Cato rises from the boat's steering wheel and makes his way to the newly taut rope. Pardon, Cato mutters in Orishan as he brushes past. Though a mask obscures much of his face, he shares Rowan's coloring and angular eyes. But where Rowan has been brash and taunting, Cato has only been cordial and serious. Cato reaches the other side of the boat and pulls on the rope to test its hold. Satisfied, he jumps on and wraps his legs around it. My lips part in surprise as he shimmies up with the speed of a bat-eared foxer. Within seconds, Cato disappears over the railing, fading into the blackness of the other ship. A weak grunt sounds, followed by another. A few moments later, Cato reappears to give the go-ahead. As the last of his men board the ship, Rowan beckons to me. Level with me, my mysterious magi. What will the gods give me if I take down this boat? Do I get to say what I'm interested in, or do they already know? It doesn't work like that. Or maybe I need to impress them. Rowan talks over me, pulling his mask over the bridge of his nose. What do you think I'll get if I clear this boat in 5 minutes? You won't get anything if you don't shut your mouth and go. His eyes crinkle through the holes of the mask. I have no doubt his foxer smile shines behind it. With a wink, he climbs up and we're left to wait, with only the mercenary anchoring the rope as company. Ridiculous, I click my tongue. 5 minutes for a boat of that size? The deck alone looks like it could support the whole army. They'll be lucky to take it at all. We sit in the night, cringing at the faint screams and grunts from above, but after the initial skirmish, the sounds fade into silence. There's only a dozen of them, Zane mutters. You really think they can take a whole ship? We stop as a shadowy figure slides down the rope. Rowan lands on the boat with a thud and removes his mask, revealing his crooked smile. You did it? I ask. No. He sighs and shows me the colored crystals of the hourglass in his timepiece. 6 minutes. 7 if we're rounding up, but if you'd let me kill, it would have been under 5. No way. Tizane crosses his arms. See for yourself, brother. Ladder. A ladder flies over the side of the ship and I grab on, ignoring the pain in my back as I climb up the rungs. He's joking. More games, more lies. But when I hit the deck, I can hardly believe my eyes. Dozens of royal guards lie unconscious, bound from head to toe in rope. Each is stripped of his uniform and their bodies are strewn across the deck like litter. I release a breath I didn't realize I was holding when I see that Enon and Saren aren't among the new captives. Yet somehow I doubt they'd fall so easily to Rowan and his men. "There's more below deck," Rowan whispers in my ear, and even I can't help but smile. I quickly roll my eyes, but Rowan shines at this small hint of approval. He shrugs and brushes non-existent dirt off his shoulders. "I suppose it's to be expected when you're chosen by the gods." His smile lingers before he steps forward, a captain taking charge. "Get these men in the brig. Sweep for any tools they can use to escape. Ryema, keep the ship on track. Cato, sail behind us in our boat. At this speed, we hit the island's coordinates at daybreak." Okay, so we just finished chapter 73. And in this chapter, Zelly's made a really important comparison between Rowan and King Saren. So what is that comparison? Why are the two similar? And then continue on to chapter 74, and we're back in Eden's perspective now after all of this. 2 days have passed. 2 days without her. In her absence, the ocean air hangs heavy. Every breath whispers her name. Staring over the railing of the warship, I see Zelly in everything. A mirror I can't escape. Her smile shines through the moon. Her spirit blows with ocean wind. Without her, the world is a living memory. A ledger of all the things I'll never enjoy again. I close my eyes, reliving the sensation of Zelly against the reeds of the dreamscape. I didn't know it was possible to fit so perfectly inside someone else's arms. In that moment, that one perfect moment, she was beautiful. Magic was beautiful. Not a curse, but a gift. With Zelly, it always is. I wrap my hand around the bronze piece she gave me, holding it tight as if it's the last piece of her heart. Something inside tempts me to throw it into the ocean, but I can't bear to let the last part of her go. If I could have stayed in that dreamscape forever, I would have. Given everything up, never looked back. But I woke up. When my eyes opened, I knew it'd never be the same again. "Scouting?" I jump. Father appears beside me. His eyes look as black as the night. They feel as cold. I turn away, as if that could hide the longings buried deep in my heart. Father may not be a connector, but his retaliation will be swift if he senses anything less than steadfast resolve. "I thought you were asleep," I manage. "Never." Father shakes his head. "I don't sleep before battle. Neither should you." Of course. Every second is a chance, an opportunity, a strategized counterattack. All things that would be so easy to concern myself with if I was positive I was doing the right thing. I squeeze the bronze piece tighter, allowing its ridges to dig into my skin. I've already let Zelly down once before. I don't know if I have the stomach to betray her again. I look up to the sky, wishing I could see Ori peering through the clouds. Even in the darkest times, the gods are always there. Zelly's voice runs through my mind. They always have a plan. "Is this your plan?" I ache to shout, desperate for a sign. Our promises, our Arisha, however distant, there's a world in which our dream still lies in our grasp. Am I making a huge mistake? Is there a chance for me to turn back? "You waver," Father says. A statement, not a question. He can probably smell the weakness leaking through the sweat on my skin. "I'm sorry," I mutter and brace for his fist. But instead he pats my back and turns out to sea. I wavered once, back before I became king, when I was just a simple prince and got to follow my own naivete. I remain still, worried that any movement will interrupt this rare peek at Father's past, a glimpse of the man he might have been. There was a referendum going through the monarchy, a proposal that would integrate leaders of the 10 Magi clans into the nobility of our royal courts. It was my father's dream to unify the Poseidon and the Magi, build an Orisha like history had never seen. Unable to stop myself, I look up at Father, eyes wide at the thought. An act like that would be monumental. It would shift our kingdom's foundation forever. Was it met with favor? Skies no, Father chuckles. Everyone but your grandfather was against it. But as king, he didn't need their permission. He could make the final decree. Why did you waver? Father's lips press into a tight line. My first wife, he finally answers. Aleka. She was too soft-hearted for her own good. She wanted me to be someone who could create change. Aleka. I picture the face that might have accompanied that name. From the way Father talks about her, she must have been a kind woman, one with an even kinder face. For her, I supported my father. I chose love over duty. I knew the Magi were dangerous, yet I convinced myself that with the right show of faith we could work together. I thought the Magi wanted to unify, but all they've ever craved is desire to conquer us. Though he speaks no more, I hear the end of the story within his silence. The king who perished trying to help the Magi, the wife Father would never hold again. The realization brings back the horrible images of the Gombe fortress. Metal melted to guard skeletons, bodies yellowed and ravished by horrible disease. It was a wasteland, an abomination, and all by magic's hand. After Zelly escaped, there was a carpet of corpses piled on top of one another. We couldn't see the floor. You waver now because that is what it means to be king, Father says. You have your duty and your heart. To choose one means the other must suffer. Father removes his black magicite blade from its sheath and points to an inscription on the tip that I've never seen. Duty before self, kingdom before king. When Aleka died, I had this blade forged, inscribed that I would always remember my mistake. Because I chose my heart, I will never be with my one true love again. Father extends his sword to me and my stomach clenches. Unable to believe this gesture. All my life, I've never seen my father without this blade strapped to his side. To sacrifice your heart for your kingdom is noble, son. It is everything. It's what it means to be king. I stare at the blade. The inscription gleams in the moonlight. Its words simplify my mission, creating space for my pain. A soldier. A great king. That's all I've ever wanted to be. Duty over self. Or Risha over Zelly. I wrap my hand around the hilt of the magicite sword, ignoring the way it blisters my skin. Father, I know how we can get the scroll back. Okay, so we just finished chapter 74. Let's take a moment, add to your notes, summarize this chapter, and what more have we discovered about King Saren here, because we've definitely got a bigger insight to who he is as a person, not just a pure villain at this point. So, chapter 75, in Zelly's perspective. When I settle into the captain's quarters below deck, I expect sleep to come easily. My eyes scream for it. My body cries even louder. Nestled between the cotton sheets and velvet panther furs, I don't know if I've ever slept in a softer bed. I close my eyes and wait to be pulled into blackness. But the moment unconsciousness takes hold, I'm thrown back into chains. I wouldn't be doing my job as king if I didn't remind you what you are. I wouldn't be doing my job as king unless... My sheets are soaked in sweat. So drenched the captain's bed might as well be in the sea. Though I'm awake, it feels like the metal walls keep closing in around me. In an instant, I'm on my feet running out the door. When I make it to the outside deck, the cool air hits me with a welcome gust of wind. The moon hangs so low in the sky, its roundness kisses the sea. Its pale light illuminates me as I inhale the ocean air. Breathe, I coach myself. Gods, I long for the days when the only thing I had to worry about when I closed my eyes was the dreamscape. Though the nightmare is more than past, I can still feel the knife cutting through my back. Enjoying the view? I whip around to find Rowan leaning against the helm, teeth gleaming even in the dark. The moon didn't want to rise tonight, but I convinced her you were worth the trip. Does everything have to be a joke with you? My words are harsher than I intend, but Rowan's grin only widens. Not everything, he shrugs, but life's a lot more fun that way. He shifts his stance and the moonlight hits the splatters of blood on his fatigues and bandaged knuckles. All on a good day's work. Rowan wriggles his blood-stained fingers. Had to get those soldiers talking about your magical island somehow. Nausea rises to my throat at the sight of the blood on his hand. A gulp to keep it down. Ignore him. I turn back to the sea, grasping onto the calm it brings. I don't want to picture the mess he made of those men. I've seen enough blood. I'll stay here within the crashing waves where it's soft and safe. Here I can think of swimming, of Baba, of freedom. The scars. Rowan's voice cuts into my thoughts. Are they new? I glare at him like he's an Oretian honeybee begging to be smashed. They're none of your damn business. If you're looking for some advice, they could be. Rowan pulls back his sleeve and all the venom I want to spit evaporates. Crooked tallies mar his wrist, traveling up his arm, disappearing underneath his shirt. 23, he answers my unasked question. And yes, I remember each mark. They killed one of my crew members in front of me each time they carved a new one. He runs his finger down one crooked line in particular, face hardening with the memory. Watching him, my own scars prickle. The king's guards? Nope. These kind and gracious men were from my home, a land across the sea. I stare at the horizon, imagining a different ship route, a place away from the ritual, from magic, from Saren. A land where the raid never happened at all. What's it called? Satori. Rowan's gaze grows distant. You'd like it there. If it's full of tally marks and scoundrels like you, I can assure you that's one kingdom I'll never see. Rowan smiles again. A nice smile, warmer than I expect, but knowing what I know so far, this smile could appear when he tells me a joke or slits another man's throat. Level with me. He steps closer, looking me straight in the eye. In my humble experience, the nightmares and scars take time to heal. Right now, your wounds are a bit too fresh for my comfort. What are you trying to say? Rowan puts a hand on my shoulder. It's so close to the scars I flinch out of instinct. If you can't do this, I need to know. Don't... He stops me before I interject. This isn't about you. I couldn't speak for weeks after I got my scars. I certainly couldn't fight. It's like he's in my head. Like he knows my magics run dry. And this is Bowie. Little Bowie, say hi. There you go. Okay. I can't do this, I scream inside. If an army's waiting, we're sailing to our deaths. But the words stay in my mouth. Burrowing back down. I have to trust the gods. I need to believe that if they took me this far, they won't turn their backs on me now. Well, Rowan presses. The people who gave me my scars are the ones on those ships. I'm not putting my men in danger so you can get revenge. I could skin Saren alive and I still wouldn't have my revenge. I shrug off his hand. It's not about him. It's not even about me. If I don't stop him tomorrow, he'll destroy my people, like he destroyed me. For the first time since the torture, I feel a hint of the old fire that used to roar louder than my fear. But its flame is weak now. As soon as it flickers, it's blown out by the wind. Fine. But if we go in there tomorrow, you better stay strong. My men are the best, but we're going against a fleet. I can't afford for you to freeze up. Why do you even care? Rowan's hand flies to his heart, feigning a wound. I'm a professional, love. I don't like to disappoint my clients, especially when I've been chosen by the gods. They're not your gods. I shake my head. They didn't choose you. Are you sure? Rowan's smile turns dangerous. And I've lost my place. There we go. Rowan's smile turns dangerous. Oh, and I've lost again. As he leans against the railing. There are over 50 mercenary clans in Jametta, love. 50 caverns you and your staff could have stumbled into. Just because the gods didn't blast through the ceiling of my cave doesn't mean they didn't choose me. I search Rowan's eyes for mischief, but I find none. That's all you need to face an army. A belief in divine intervention? It's not a belief, love, it's insurance. I can't read the gods, and in my line of work, it's best not to mess with things I can't read. He turns to the skies and shouts, But I prefer to be paid in gold. I burst out laughing, and it feels foreign. I never thought I would laugh again. I wouldn't wait on that gold. I don't know about that. Rowan reaches out and cups my chin. They did send a serious little magi into my cavern. I'm sure more treasure will follow. He walks away, pausing only to call back. You should talk to someone. The jokes don't help much, but talking does. His foxer smile returns, mischief lighting his steel-colored gaze. If you're interested, my room's next to yours. I've been told I'm an excellent listener. He winks and I roll my eyes as he walks away. It's as if he can't stomach being serious for more than 5 seconds. I force myself to turn back to the sea, but the longer I stare into the moon, the more I realize he's right. I don't want to be alone. Not when tonight could be my last night. Blind faith in the gods may have taken me this far, but if I'm to get on that island tomorrow, I need more. I fight my hesitation and walk through the ship's narrow hallway, passing to Zane's door than my own. I need to be with someone. I need to tell someone the truth. When I come to the right room, I knock softly, heart pounding when the door opens. Hey, I whisper. Hi. Amari smiles. Okay, so we just finished chapter 75. So take a moment, add to your notes, what more have we discovered about Rowan here? How are we getting a better understanding of truly the impact that this is having on Zelly and the torture that she endured? And then summarize the chapter and then continue to the next video for chapter 76.